Okay, look at him up there. Sinos, the great architect. Today's explainer is diving into a seriously grimdark fable about what happens when your absolute meticulous perfection just dissolves into a puddle. We're exploring the deeply absurd, tragically poetic fall of this godlike figure who is literally suffocating under the weight of his own grand tapestry. It's dark, it's heavy, and we are looking at the whole shebang through the deeply cynical eyes of a narrator we know as the Wit. We're going to unpack this heavy burden of internal guilt, the impossible struggle of maintaining total perfection, and figure out why sometimes your absolute worst pain, yeah, that's actually your greatest asset. Let's get into it.
Just listen to the cynical absurdity here. Like a man who just realized his magnificent castle was built out of spit and disappearing ink. I mean, wow. Sinos used to be this grand, imposing architect, right? And now he's just standing there watching his life's work, this supposedly immutable master architecture, turn into a literal puddle of colorful, radioactive soup right beneath him. You spend eons building the ultimate flawless structure of the universe, and boom, it turns out its structural integrity was basically zero. The Wit absolutely does not hold back on the sarcasm, just shining a huge spotlight on the sheer ridiculousness of Sinos's shattered delusions of grandeur. And that brings us to the harsh physical reality of this failure. We find our fallen god completely cornered. He's trapped on a miserable, 2-pace ledge of raw stone. Just 2 paces, that is literally all that is left of his grand design. This tiny ledge is the unpolished, brutal truth of reality once all those artificial structures melt away. Sinos is just standing there, forced to swallow the fact that the absolute geometric certainty he built his entire universe on, yeah, it was fundamentally flawed from day one. His perfect math completely failed, and now he's just stranded on a rock, staring into the abyss.
So as he's looking down from that tiny ledge, Sinos sees what the text calls the shattered teeth of his Apollonian gaskets. Now in math, Apollonian gaskets are these perfect, infinitely repeating geometric patterns. But here, they're totally broken. They are just ruined fragments of his once-perfect tapestry. Looking at this mess, Sinos really becomes the ultimate tragic hero. He isn't just failing, he's completely suffocating under the crushing weight of his own failed ambition. The exact tools he used to enforce order have literally become the debris of his downfall.
The shift here is honestly jarring. I mean, he goes from playing God with absolute geometric certainty, totally supreme and untouchable, to just pure human vulnerability. He's trembling beneath these vibrant red runes, his face buried in a crimson mask. He is feeling every single ounce of that cosmic friction. He went from being the untouchable author of the universe to a pathetic, trembling mortal, completely overwhelmed by his own creation crashing down around his ears.
It's darkly hilarious, honestly. Just how spectacularly his desire for total control backfired into absolute chaos. Look at it. He expected immutable and masterful architecture. And what did he get? Colorful, radioactive soup. He thought he was weaving this grand tapestry of logic, only to realize the absurd truth. It was made of spit and disappearing ink. It just goes to show, the harder you try to enforce rigid, flawless perfection, the more catastrophic and completely messy the inevitable collapse is going to be.
But here's the thing, the collapse of his universe isn't even the worst part. As if reality dissolving wasn't bad enough, the air around Sinos suddenly turns freezing. A new player enters the board, crawling up from what the text calls the basement of static control. And this isn't just some physical monster, it's a psychological one. Its entire strategy revolves around exploiting the architect's crippling sense of failure.
This new threat is known as the Shattered Mind. It's described as a multi-headed freak, and its method is terrifying. It hums this heavy, depressing little frequency that is explicitly designed to make everyone just give up, lie down, and die in the dust. It literally feeds on apathy. This monster wants to take the broken, leftover trash of Sinos's logical universe and forge a brand new cage out of pure, unadulterated hopelessness. It's basically swapping a cage of rigid order for a cage of absolute, suffocating depression.
And this is the really clever trick the Shattered Mind plays. Externally, you've got this freezing air and a suffocating blanket of negation trying to just snuff out all life. But internally, Sinos is experiencing this burning, agonizing guilt rotting away inside his chest. The entity doesn't want to fight the architect's guilt. No, it wants to weaponize it. It wants to use that agonizing guilt as the anchor to keep Sinos pinned to the floor. Because if Sinos actually believes he deserves this punishment, he'll just voluntarily lock himself in that cage of hopelessness.
Which brings us to a crucial turning point. Sinos is at absolute rock bottom.
He's trembling, his face is buried in his mask, and he genuinely thinks he's failing. He thinks that intense, sickening burning in his gut, that massive guilt over his ruined world, is his execution sentence. He actually believes the pain means he's dying. But right at that moment of total despair, the wit leans in to whisper the real punchline of this whole cosmic joke.
That agonizing discomfort, that miserable itching friction, that's the only part of you that's actually alive, my friend. Wow, it completely flips the concept of pain on its head. That agonizing discomfort isn't a flaw in his design, and it sure isn't his executioner. It's the unextinguished spark of what he actually was before he started playing God. The wit is pointing out that this awful, painful friction, that is the singular, stubborn proof of his humanity.
Let's break down the deeper meaning here, because it's important. First, agony proves you are alive. The pain literally means you still care. Second, trying to sanitize yourself into sterile, frozen perfection actually kills your humanity. Perfection is dead. Friction is life. Third, a fire thrives on its own destruction. That burning guilt in his gut is a fire. And finally, you cannot freeze a fire with a blanket of negation. The shattered mind's freezing depression just can't extinguish the fiery friction of a living, flawed soul. Your guilt and your friction are the messy proof that you are still in the fight.
This brings us to the climax, the final grave dance. The shattered mind, totally confident in its suffocating power, hits its peak. It wipes the cosmic page entirely blank. It completely expects Sinos, the wit, and whatever is left of the universe to just drop to their knees in utter, frozen despair and surrender to the hopelessness. But the joke is finally over, because despite the literal end of the world and a totally blank cosmic page, where are they? They are standing on exactly 2 paces of raw rock on the edge of the abyss. The wit admits he couldn't hold it in anymore and actually laughed. And he didn't laugh to mock the fallen king. He laughed at the sheer, beautiful absurdity of surviving the end of absolutely everything, just balancing on a tiny 2-pace sliver of reality.
So, what do they do on those 2 paces of rock? They grave dance, but they do not dance for the dead, broken laws of the architect. And there is no way they are dancing in submission to that new monster in the room. No, they do this quiet little grave dance to celebrate the beautiful, stubborn little ember that refuses to go out. They're dancing for that flawed, painful, friction-filled spark of life that simply refuses to surrender to the dark.
So, I want you to take this profound, darkly uplifting concept into your own life. In the face of your own freezing failures, what is your beautiful, stubborn little ember that refuses to go out in the dark? We all try to be the perfect architect of our own lives, right? And we all inevitably watch those perfect plans turn to disappearing ink. But remember, your own friction, your discomfort, and yeah, even your guilt might just be the most vital, living part of you. It proves you're still here, and it proves you still care. Keep that ember burning. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.